Baby,
Yeah?
you know your short position got liquidated again, right?
Uh,
And now we have to sell the house. Alright, I'm leaving. Take the keys with me. Bye.
Alright everyone, Cowboy Trades here. Welcome back to the channel for another yearly update on Bitcoin. So, what is happening right now? This is honestly going to be the type of video which I'm probably not even going to edit because I don't really want to script this video. I just kind of want to let you know off the top of my head, kind of just share my thoughts and try and explain to myself, try and understand for myself, and also explain to you what has been happening in the past week or so. So let's just dive right into the content. Now for me, since round about the 16th of October, things just haven't been making too much sense. We had that report that the BlackRock spot ETF was approved. Bitcoin rallied from round about 27,500 all the way up to about 30,000 in 15 minutes, half an hour. 10 minutes later, the news came out that the ETF news was actually fake. The ETF was not approved, and Bitcoin ran all the way back down to 28,000. That made sense to me. We posted this over on Twitter, how, this move was getting deleted, it was fake news, run it back. Ever since we came back down to 28,000 on the 16th of October, things just stopped making sense to me. But to help me keep a linear track on what on earth is happening right now, let's take it back a second. Let's go back to 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, etc., where we were talking about our macro predictions for the markets. We were talking about the VIX. The VIX, as you can see, the W pattern is breaking out, and this week, the VIX has made the highest high since March of 2023. The S&P 500 on the weekly time frame, due to political news, global turmoil, etc. I'm sure you know what's happening in the news. The S&P 500 has been getting crushed, just like we predicted. We're moving down to this 4,200 level. The DXY is massively above these previous resistances. It's looking like we're retesting this and getting ready to push back up. The bonds, like we've been talking about, bond yields, 10-year government bonds made new all-time highs this week. 2-year government bonds made new cycle highs this week. Global liquidity in the past few weeks has been coming down since it made new bear market lows about 3 weeks ago. In terms of banks tightening standards, liquidity conditions, tightening conditions, they're just getting tighter and tighter and tighter, meaning credit is harder and harder to come by, which is, once again, no surprise. We see this kind of bleed into global net liquidity, which is bleeding out at this moment in time. In terms of the macro, all of these predictions that we've been talking about in the past week or two, they are following suit. iShares TIP ETF, as you can see, red, green, red formation. We are getting crushed right now. In terms of the inflation rate, we made these predictions about 2 weeks ago that inflation was going to keep on coming up. Well, we've been talking about this for a few months. As you can see, inflation has moved from 3% up to 3.7%. So in terms of these macro predictions, which we've been making in the past month, we've got number one, the VIX, number two, the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is, of course, large cap stocks. We've been predicting about these coming down. As you can see, they're clearly moving down to 4,200 like we've been talking about. I guess you could say number three, small cap stocks as well, if we just want to summarize equities, but let's just call this number three. We've been talking about small cap and large cap stocks getting annihilated. Look at the IWM, look at the small caps, they are getting decimated right now. Number four, the DXY, it's above this resistance line. It's looking like it wants to push up in the following weeks or so. Number five, we've got all the bonds that we talk about on the channel, mainly the 10-year and the 2-year, hitting new cycle highs. Number six, let's collectively say number six is global net liquidity and credit conditions, because they're pretty similar. Bank tightening standards bleeds into credit, credit bleeds into global liquidity. Let's just call it liquidity. In terms of number six, liquidity, it has been coming down like we've been talking about. Number seven, iShares TIP ETF is bleeding out at this moment in time. Number eight, inflation has been coming up, but what happened to number nine? Unfortunately, guys, as you know, if you watch my channel, I know a lot of you guys, 99% of you guys, really just watch me for Bitcoin. The matter of the fact is, I can make, 9 different predictions. 8 of them could play out absolutely perfectly. But, what is reality is reality. Most of you watch me for my Bitcoin updates. So if I get 8 out of 9 predictions right and the Bitcoin prediction is wrong, then, people remember me as the guy that got this week wrong. So, it is what it is. I'll take this one on the chin. I was wrong on this week. I do not know what logically happened. I'm looking at the markets and I'm thinking, how does this logically make sense? And once again, like I said, this does not make logical sense to me. I kind of swept this under the rug. On the 16th, we kind of looked at what happened where Bitcoin rallied to 30,000. It ran it all the way back down to 28,000. And I was like, okay, reality settled in, nothing has changed. I didn't make an update because I was like, well, Bitcoin moved to 30,000. It's back down to 28,000. It's fake news. I posted a tweet. There's nothing real that has, materially changed in the markets. And apparently, the markets haven't really listened to that. Now, in the past week or so, we've had some somewhat bullish news. Coinbase has been coming out saying that they believe the ETF is going to get approved. The JP Morgan's come out and said they believe the ETF is going to get approved. The XRP lawsuit got swept underneath the rug. And once again, Biden thinking money literally grows on trees by asking Congress for another $100 billion in funding for Ukraine and Israel. So for me personally, 90% of this rally does not make any sense. Maybe 10% of this rally can be associated with Bitcoin being a safe haven because Biden is just printing unholy amounts of money. But, really, even after the 16th, Bitcoin was holding up relatively strongly around about 28,000. So, once again, I can only approach the markets from a logical perspective. For me, this move that we're seeing right now, it doesn't seem logical to me. And this kind of drives me into the whole purpose of the video. The whole kind of reason why I don't really want to over edit this video. I don't really want to script this video. I don't really want to have a plan of, what exactly I'm going to say going into this video. I really just want to let you know off the top of my head that this move it doesn't make sense to me. From a logical perspective, it doesn't make sense. From a technical perspective, it may make a little bit of sense from a technical perspective, and that's what we'll talk about now. Before we jump into the technical analysis, let me know down below if you like these type of unscripted videos. I feel like there's a time and a place for more scripted, more thought out videos, and I feel like this is the kind of time where I more so want to talk to you guys like a human, connect with you, really just share with you my thoughts a cappella off the top of my head without really thinking too deeply about, what I'm going to talk about before I record this video. Because like I said, for me, if everything is making sense, I kind of want to present my thoughts in a compendious way. When things aren't really making sense, obviously this week, like I said, it's the unfortunate reality. We can predict everything about the macro right, but 99% of you watch my videos for Bitcoin. That's what you're going to remember me for. If I'm wrong about Bitcoin, doesn't matter about anything else. I'm wrong about everything. So it really is what it is. Of course, I don't get everything right. I'm human. You know the gist. I didn't get this week right. Apparently, Bitcoin just absolutely does not care about what is happening in the rest of the markets. And, that is something that happens to logical traders sometimes. Sometimes the markets don't move logically. The markets have not, in my opinion, for Bitcoin, moved logically this week. And, I guess that's what it is. I was wrong. I apologize. Of course, this week did not play out for me whatsoever. Everything was so bad. Everything's so bad. I lost my house. My wife and kids have left me. I don't even have a wife and a kids. This is how bad things are getting. I'm just sitting at my desk. I think I'm starting to become schizophrenic. Let's get into the video before I start hearing the voices again. But nonetheless, I was thinking before, another thing. Before I started recording this video, I was like, what am I going to name this video? I was like, okay, what's a really good title? Because as you guys know, if you watch my channel, I'm really good at coming up with new title ideas. There's never, ever in the history of my channel been a title which has repeated more than once. It's never happened. So, when I was thinking, what is a good idea, or what is a good original cowboy idea for the title of this video? Well, Bitcoin is disregarding global liquidity sounds like a pretty good title. And then I remembered we made this video back up at 32,000. The markets are disregarding global liquidity. I think we even then made a video, Bitcoin is disregarding global liquidity. And then we made another video. I was like, okay, what is the most original cowboy title idea? Well, we've made this one before. Let's tweak it slightly because maybe we're not too good at thinking of new title names. How about Bitcoin is disregarding global liquidity again? We made this title. Bitcoin is disregarding global liquidity again. Okay, how about Bitcoin is disregarding global liquidity again? Bitcoin is disregarding global liquidity again, V2. I don't even know what I'm going to title this video. I'm going off on a tangent. The point of the fact is, this week I was wrong. It is what it is. I'm going to say this so the haters, the people who dislike my videos but still watch it and comment for some reason, you can soundbite this, you can save it, you can put it as your ringtone on your iPhone so whenever your loved ones call you, you can hear this voice clip. I don't know what happened this week. Once again, from a logical perspective, this doesn't make sense from me. And from a technical perspective, things can make a little bit more sense, and that's what I want to talk about right now. So if we're looking at what's happening technically in the charts at this moment in time, we previously were mentioning, you know, this head and shoulders, predominantly this flat head and shoulders. Let me just remove this, remove this, remove this. This is one of the head and shoulders that we were talking about. We were obviously talking about left head, right one. We obviously broke down from this quite recently. As you can see, the neckline of this is right now coming into play around about 31,000. But we were discussing a potential other, oh, I don't even know what just happened there. We were discussing a potential other head and shoulders pattern with a neckline round about 24, 25,000. And we were saying maybe this right shoulder is topping out around about 28,700. Now, is this head and shoulders invalid up here at 30,500? Well, no, it's not invalid. Technically, it's not invalid until we breach this 32,000 mark, and at which point, I would definitely say a lot of my macro analysis becomes a little bit shaky if we start coming above this 31,000 horizontal resistance line, which we've been discussing on the channel. If we start breaching that, and then especially if we start breaching 32,000, you know, that is where myself and probably a lot of other bears are going to be thinking, you know, what is happening right now? The macro is just not playing out in our favor. For right now, the weekly time frame, I was wrong. It didn't play out. Whatever happened in the macro, whatever happened in the DXY, the bond market, small caps, large caps, CPI, inflation, of course. Once again, no one cares about that. Maybe 2 people watch my videos for that purpose. The rest of you watch it for Bitcoin. So in that regard, on the weekly time frame and the lower time frames, you know, the micro was wrong. But in the macro, have things changed? Well, for me, the macro is the exact same. The only thing which is, you know, I would prefer to see us beneath at this moment in time, I'd prefer to see us beneath the 200-week moving average at 28,300. That break beneath and then flip back above doesn't look too nice to me, just being honest. But regardless, like I said, unless 32,000 gets breached right here, unless we start flipping above this neckline of the original head and shoulders with a price target down here at 18,500, then for me, the macro is the same. You know, if we're looking at this horizontal box, you can still see strong resistance at 31,000, strong resistance at 31,900. And in terms of the Fibonacci's, from low to high, from these 2 swing lows to swing highs that we've been talking about, the double 618 box is between 28,300 up to about 30,500. So in my opinion, as a bear, I would be hoping that 30,500 does not start to get breached. Besides that point, if we start moving above that level, I'd be looking at the neckline here at 31,100 approximately. If we start to breach that level, I would literally be looking at this 32,000 level, biting my nails, saying, I hope we don't break this level, because if we do, a lot of the macro bear analysis is going to be looking a little bit shaky. But besides that point, am I really too worried right now? Honestly, no, I'm not worried whatsoever. I approach the markets completely rationally, completely logically. You know me, I look at these markets like a robot. It is what it is. We approach these markets first and foremost from a probability perspective. And I'm just looking at everything that's happening in the macro right now. I'm looking at the fact that the S&P is getting crushed, but Bitcoin is diverging. I'm looking at the fact that the VIX is getting, or the inverse VIX is getting crushed, meaning the actual VIX is on a rally right now, and the Bitcoin price is just diverging from this. I'm looking at the IWM, small cap stocks getting crushed. Bitcoin is diverging from this. I'm looking at global net liquidity getting crushed. Global net liquidity is normally a beautiful leading indicator for Bitcoin. The highs and lows on global liquidity normally call pretty much all of the moves in Bitcoin. This is actually a topic that I want to discuss in some video at some point soon, looking at what happens with the M2 money supply year-to-date changes and how Bitcoin just seems to track that. You know, I think we've actually touched on this slightly before, but I want to touch on it slightly more in a liquidity video at a later date, at some other time, maybe next year, because, you know, we're only doing yearly updates at this moment in time. But nonetheless, like I said, from a fundamental perspective, from a logical perspective, what's happened this week, I don't know what happened this week. It does not make any sense to me. That's just me telling you how it is with humility. I don't know what happened this week from a logical perspective. From a technical perspective, I can tell you that this rally, which is happening counter to the S&P 500, the equities, bond yields, you know, the VIX, global liquidity, CPI, like right now from a technical perspective, from a logical perspective, This doesn't make sense to me. Once again, I wish I could name this video Bitcoin is disregarding global liquidity again, but I think we're going to have to think of a more original name. For today, my friends, that's all I've got. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know what to do. Smash that like button, share the videos with your friends. If you want to further support the channel, feel free to click the join button on YouTube and become a member today. I'll keep you up to date. If any of my thoughts changed, make sure to come and follow me over on Twitter at 618_cowboy. Make sure to come and join the Discord. The link to that is attached to my YouTube page. You can find my Twitter, Discord, etc. all on the About section. For today, my friends, I'm going to leave it here. I'm expecting within the next few weeks or so for reality to set back into the markets because, like I said, I think there's only so long that Bitcoin can defy gravity. And I know we made a video about this 3 months ago saying Bitcoin is disregarding global liquidity. We made this video up at 32,000 and obviously 30,000 right now. We're at a lower price. Of course, you know, Bitcoin seems to be just going down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. But, you know, more often than not, there's more down than up than's been happening in the past few months. And, you know, when I'm looking at Bitcoin, I'm still really seeing the macro. I'm still seeing these macro bearish patterns still holding strong. It's just taking a little bit longer than I originally thought to play out. But that doesn't change my price targets in the macro. That only changes our prediction on, you know, what's been happening in the past week or so. So for today, my friends, that's all I've got. It's been your boy Cowboy Trades. I will see you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.